So this is a little bit different from what I normally produce, but I'm recording this as much so I can remember it if I want to do this again as to post it up on YouTube. What I'm doing is modifying the Harbor Freight bar stool, which is suitable for sitting in front of a bar, to a lower size, a lower height, so it's more suitable for sitting in front of a workbench. So that's what the various steps are going to be that we're going to cover in the next few minutes. What I basically did was chop these bottom leg parts off to shorten it. This is the main tool I used, which is a rigid pipe cutter. I had it in my toolbox, presumably because I must have had to cut some pipe sometime in the past. So it's probably $25-30 or so for one of these tools. And if you think about it, the chair legs, the stool legs, are really just pipe. So cutting the pipe shortens the legs. I tried to measure the cutting points using a Sharpie and a ruler, but I found that once I put the pipe cutter on there, even with the help of the very cool mechanic pick light, which is magnetic, and so it would snap to the side of my workbench, I really couldn't get a truly accurate positioning view of my marks. So I went to a different approach. I used the pipe cutter to cut off the first of the legs on the stool, and I did this using roughly the mark I had placed, but I wasn't quite as concerned because I was going to use the cut pipe as my sample. So I did first I did a light cut, and then I kept tightening the pipe cutter and went around a couple more times with a more deep cut until the top popped off of it. Now that I've got a workbench that allows for bench dogs, I'm going to town with them. I used 2 of them to help secure the stool while I was applying pressure with my other hand. And that way I essentially had a third hand to hold this thing. I'm crazy about bench dogs. They're very cool. But let's go back to measuring for a second. If you look at this, you'll see where the arrow is, that's where the cutting blade is. And once I had my first piece cut off, I could use that as a template for all the subsequent pieces. So when I cut the first piece off, I then put the pipe cutter on top of the next stool leg, and I just simply adjusted the blade up and down until it matched the cut off template piece. And that's how I was able to eventually cut all 4 pieces off of the bench. And here it is, sitting next to another one of my workbench stools. And you can see it's also got a flame job on the top. But you can see it's just the right size now. The project took from end to end less than an hour. So I may pick up a couple more of these stools and do the same thing, because it'd be nice to have a few of them around the workshop. Go ahead, chop off your Harbor Freight bar stool and make it a workbench stool. It's a very cool workbench stool for 30 some odd bucks. Anyway, I'm David Gewirtz, and welcome to my workshop.